Block 1. The night air pressed against my skin like a damp cloth as I hurried down the dimly lit street. My footsteps echoed against brick buildings, their facades blurring into shadows. A distant siren wailed, then faded, swallowed by the city's endless hum. 3 blocks to go until I reached the safety of my apartment, my sanctuary from the world that seemed determined to crush me beneath its weight. I clutched my worn leather bag tighter against my side. Inside, nestled between crumpled receipts and half-empty lip balms, lay an envelope containing every dollar I'd managed to save over 6 months of double shifts. $843. Not enough to escape this city, but enough to pay next month's rent and maybe, finally, fix the rattling sound in my ancient Toyota. Small dreams, but they were mine. My phone buzzed. A text from Ellie, my roommate. "Where are you?" He came back, asking questions, said he knows. My lungs seized. He couldn't know. No one knew except Ellie, and she wouldn't tell. Couldn't tell. I'd been careful, covering my tracks since I'd taken Leo's money and disappeared. Not stolen, I reminded myself. Reclaimed. After what Leo did to me, after the bruises and lies and empty promises, that money was the least he owed me. I quickened my pace, my worn sneakers slapping against wet pavement. Rain had fallen earlier, leaving the streets glistening under streetlights that flickered like dying stars. The coffee shop where I'd been working double shifts for the past 3 months was 20 blocks behind me now. My fingers ached from hours of serving overpriced lattes to people who looked through me as if I were made of glass. A car engine growled behind me, headlights washing the sidewalk in harsh white light. I didn't turn. In this neighborhood, you learn to keep your eyes forward, your pace steady. Show no weakness. The car slowed, matching my stride. My heart hammered against my ribs. Leo didn't own a car, but he had friends who did. "Miss." A deep voice cut through the night air. Male, authoritative, the kind of voice that expected to be obeyed. I hesitated, caught in that moment of indecision that could mean the difference between safety and danger. The car, sleek, black, expensive, pulled alongside me. The window lowered silently, revealing only darkness within. "I believe you dropped this." A gloved hand extended from the window, holding something that caught the light. My wallet. The cheap faux leather one with the broken zipper that I'd had since college. I patted my bag frantically, feeling for the familiar bulge. Gone. I began, then stopped. Taking a step closer, I peered into the shadow of the car. "Thank you." As I reached for the wallet, his face emerged from the darkness, strong jawline, clean-shaven. Eyes that reminded me of storm clouds. Gray, watchful, electric with hidden energy. His suit was impeccable, the kind that cost more than my annual rent. A thin scar traced a path from his right temple to his cheekbone, the only imperfection on a face that seemed carved from cold marble. "You should be more careful," he said, his voice low and controlled. "These streets aren't safe after dark." Something about him, his posture, the quiet authority in his tone, the way his gaze moved beyond me to scan the street, reminded me of the detectives who had taken my statement after the break-in at my previous apartment. A cop. Not in uniform, but something about him radiated law enforcement. Relief flooded through me. Not Leo. Not one of his friends. Just a plainclothes officer doing his job. "Are you all right, miss? You look..." His eyes narrowed slightly, assessing. Frightened. "I'm fine," I lied, taking my wallet from his outstretched hand. Our fingers brushed, and I noticed how warm his were compared to the night air. "Thank you, officer." A slight pause. Something flickered across his features. Amusement? Surprise? But it vanished so quickly I thought I might have imagined it. The driver, a broad-shouldered silhouette in the front seat, shifted slightly. "Where are you headed?" he asked, ignoring my assumption about his profession. "Home." The word came out before I could stop it. I never told strangers where I lived. Never. The city had taught me that lesson the hard way. He nodded, as if confirming something to himself. 3 blocks east? The Westmore building? Ice slid down my spine. How did he know? I hadn't told anyone my new address except my boss and Ellie. "How did you..." Your ID, he said smoothly, gesturing to the wallet in my hand. I checked to see who it belonged to. Of course. My driver's license still showed my current address. Still, something felt off. Wrong. The hair at the nape of my neck prickled with warning. Let me drive you, he offered, pushing open the door. The interior light revealed buttery leather seats and the faint scent of expensive cologne mingled with something sharper. It's not safe for you to walk alone. No, thank you, I said automatically. I insist. His tone remained polite, but beneath it ran a current of steel. Not a request. A command disguised as courtesy. Consider it part of my job to ensure citizens reach their destinations safely. My hand tightened around my bag. I should run. Every instinct screamed it. But to where? My apartment was still blocks away. And if Leo was there... And this man was a cop, wasn't he? The badge peeking from his inner pocket confirmed it, glinting gold in the dim light. Safety. Protection. Just a ride home, he said, his voice gentler now. Nothing more. Fatigue weighed on me like a physical thing. My double shift had left me exhausted, and the thought of walking another 3 blocks while looking over my shoulder was suddenly unbearable. I nodded once, sharply, and slid into the back seat beside him. The door closed with a soft click that sounded strangely final. The car pulled away from the curb, gliding into traffic with silent efficiency. Up close, the man beside me radiated heat and a kind of contained energy that made the spacious back seat feel suddenly claustrophobic. His cologne wrapped around me, sandalwood, and something darker, more primal. I'm Adrian, he said after a moment, offering no last name. Maya, I replied, instantly regretting giving my real name. Another rule broken. Maya, he repeated, as if testing how my name felt on his tongue. You work at Blackbird Coffee on 22nd. Not a question, a statement of fact. How? Your uniform, he explained, gesturing to my black shirt with the small embroidered blackbird over the heart. And you smell like coffee. I shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of the distance between us. Or rather, the lack of it. The car turned smoothly onto my street, moving at a leisurely pace despite the emptiness of the road. The driver's eyes appeared in the rearview mirror, meeting mine for a brief moment before returning to the road. Watchful. Alert. Your roommate, Adrian said, his gaze fixed on the passing buildings. The one who texted you. She's in trouble, isn't she? My blood froze. What? How did you... Your face, he said simply. When you checked your phone earlier, and you've been clutching your bag like it contains something precious or dangerous. His eyes dropped to my white-knuckled grip on my leather bag. Which is it? I wonder. The car slowed, stopping in front of my apartment building, the Westmore, once grand, now slowly decaying behind a facade of faded elegance, my prison and my sanctuary. Thank you for the ride, I said stiffly, reaching for the door handle. It wouldn't budge. Locked. My heart rate doubled instantly. I need to go. Adrian studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. The man who came looking for you, Leo. He's not a friend, is he? Panic clawed at my throat. How do you know about Leo? It's my job to know things, Maya. He reached inside his jacket, and for a terrifying moment, I thought he was reaching for a gun. Instead, he produced a sleek business card. No name, just a number, embossed in silver on matte black. When you need help, and you will, call this number. Anytime, day or night. The door lock clicked open. Adrian's eyes never left mine as I scrambled for the handle. Thank you again, officer, I said, desperate to maintain the fragile illusion that he was what I'd initially believed him to be. That ghost of a smile again, barely perceptible in the shadows. I never said I was a police officer, Maya. I froze, one foot on the sidewalk, the other still in his world. But your badge... Good night, he said softly. Remember what I said. When, not if. I stumbled onto the sidewalk, clutching my bag to my chest. The car remained at the curb, engine idling, as I fumbled with the building's security code. Only when the door closed behind me did I hear the car pull away, tires whispering against wet asphalt. My apartment was on the 4th floor. The elevator, perpetually out of service, forced me to take the stairs. By the time I reached my door, my legs trembled with exhaustion and lingering fear. The hallway was silent, too silent. No television sounds from Mrs. Peterson's apartment. No arguing couple in 4C. Nothing. I slid my key into the lock, turning it as quietly as possible. The door swung open to darkness. "Ellie," I whispered, fumbling for the light switch. "Ellie, are you—" The lamp clicked on. My roommate sat rigid on our second-hand couch, her face pale, eyes wide with terror. Beside her sat a man I'd never seen before, his hand resting casually on her knee. Behind them stood another, bulky and expressionless, not Leo. These men were something else entirely. "Maya," Ellie's voice cracked. "This is Mr. Vega. He says you have something that belongs to him." The man on the couch, Mr. Vega, smiled pleasantly. "Hello, Maya. I believe you've already met my brother Adrian. He mentioned giving you a ride home." He patted Ellie's knee, a gesture that made her flinch. "Why don't you join us? We have much to discuss." The business card in my pocket suddenly felt like it was burning through the fabric. Adrian. Not a cop. Brother to this man who had invaded my home and terrified my friend. The realization washed over me like ice water. I hadn't escaped danger tonight. I'd been delivered directly into its hands. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, the lie thick on my tongue. My gaze darted between Ellie's terrified face and the exit that now seemed impossibly far away. "I don't have anything of yours." Mr. Vega's smile never wavered. He was older than Adrian by perhaps a decade, with silver threading through his dark hair and lines etched around his eyes that spoke of both laughter and cruelty. Where Adrian had been all contained energy and cold observation, this man radiated an easy charm that somehow felt more dangerous. "Please sit," he said, gesturing to the armchair across from him. Not a request. The same commanding tone his brother had used, just wrapped in different packaging. Family shouldn't stand on ceremony. "Family?" The word escaped me before I could stop it. In a manner of speaking. He straightened his already immaculate cufflinks. Platinum, I noticed, with tiny diamonds catching the light. "You see, Maya, when you took what belonged to Leo Romano, you didn't just steal from him." His eyes hardened, though his smile remained fixed. "You stole from me." The room tilted slightly. Leo worked for this man? The Leo I'd known, my Leo, with his charming smile and quick temper, had been what exactly? A delivery boy? A soldier? The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The unexplained cash, the late-night calls, the business associates, who sometimes appeared at our apartment at odd hours. "Leo deals drugs for you," I said flatly. Mr. Vega's laugh was genuine, his head tipping back with amusement. "Oh, my dear, Leo doesn't deal drugs. Leo manages distribution for pharmaceutical products across 3 states. He leaned forward, amusement fading. "And the money you took wasn't his personal poker winnings. It was mine." My mouth went dry. The envelope in my bag suddenly felt radioactive. $843, I said weakly. "That's all I have left. I can give it back." Another laugh, shorter this time. "The money you took amounted to $75,000, Maya. Leo was making a delivery when you distracted him." The world collapsed to a pinpoint. 75,000? I'd found just over 15,000 hidden in Leo's gym bag. I'd taken it all, believing it was money he'd been hiding from me while I worked double shifts to pay our rent. 15,000, not 75, which meant, "Leo stole from you too," I whispered. Something dangerous flashed in Mr. Vega's eyes. "Yes, and you're going to help me find him." "I haven't seen Leo in 6 months," I protested. "Not since I left. And yet," Mr. Vega countered smoothly, "he came looking for you just yesterday, asking questions at your former workplace, showing your picture around." He tilted his head. Why would he do that, I wonder? Because he'd finally figured out I was the one who took his money, I thought but didn't say. Because Leo's temper turned violent when he felt wronged. Because he'd promised that if I ever left him, he'd find me. "I don't know." I lied again. Mr. Vega studied me for a long moment, then sighed as if disappointed by a child's poor performance at school. Maya, let me be clear. Leo has stolen a significant amount of money from me. This makes me unhappy. He gestured to Ellie, who had gone completely still beside him. I would prefer not to extend this unhappiness to others in your life. The threat hung in the air, undisguised. I swallowed hard, feeling the walls of my carefully constructed new life crumbling around me. What do you want from me? My voice sounded distant, as if it belonged to someone else. Your assistance, Mr. Vega said simply. You know Leo, his habits, his hideouts, his weaknesses. His smile returned, shark-like. You're going to help us find him, and if I refuse? The bulky man standing behind the couch shifted slightly. Mr. Vega didn't even glance in his direction. That would be unfortunate, he said softly. For everyone. My gaze met Ellie's. Tears streamed silently down her face. We'd been friends since freshman year of college, sharing cheap wine and cheaper dreams. She'd taken me in without question when I showed up at her door 6 months ago, bruised and terrified. I couldn't let her pay for my mistakes. Fine, I said, defeat coding each syllable. I'll help you find Leo. Mr. Vega clapped his hands together once, the sound sharp in the tense room. Excellent. We begin tomorrow. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. Pack a bag. Enough for a few days. What? No, I have work. Your employment at Blackbird Coffee has been terminated, he said, as casually as if commenting on the weather. A generous severance has been arranged. Horror crawled up my spine. You can't just... I already have. He checked his watch. Platinum, matching his cufflinks. Be ready at 9 tomorrow morning. My brother will collect you. Adrian. The not cop who had delivered me into this nightmare. Anger flared, briefly outshining fear. And Ellie? I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. We'll remain here, comfortable and unharmed, provided you cooperate. Mr. Vega moved toward the door, his silent companion following. Consider her my insurance policy. He paused at the threshold, turning back to me with that same pleasant smile that never reached his eyes. Oh, and Maya? The money you took from Leo. I'll be requiring that back as well. His gaze dropped meaningfully to my bag. All of it. After they left, the silence in the apartment was deafening. Ellie collapsed into tears, her body shaking with sobs. I rushed to her, pulling her into my arms, whispering apologies that felt hollow even to my own ears. Who are they? She asked between sobs. I don't know, I admitted. But they're dangerous, Ellie. More dangerous than I realized. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat by the window, watching the street below, half expecting to see that sleek black car waiting. By dawn, I had packed a small duffel bag and counted out the $843 I had saved, a pittance compared to what I apparently owed. At precisely 8:59 the next morning, a different car pulled up outside our building, a matte gray SUV with tinted windows. I kissed Ellie's cheek, promised her everything would be okay, and made her swear to call her parents in Connecticut if she didn't hear from me within 3 days. Adrian was waiting in the back seat when I slid in beside him, his expression as unreadable as the night before. Today he wore a different suit, charcoal gray, impeccably tailored, and smelled of the same expensive cologne. You lied to me, I said without preamble. I never said I was a police officer, he replied calmly. You assumed. You let me believe it. Yes. No apology. No explanation. Just that single syllable, unapologetic and final. The car pulled away from the curb, merging into morning traffic. The driver, the same broad-shouldered man from the night before, kept his eyes on the road, though I sensed he was listening to every word. Where are we going? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Somewhere safe, Adrian replied. Somewhere Leo won't find you. I'm not afraid of Leo, I lied. I'm afraid of your brother. A ghost of a smile touched Adrian's lips. A reasonable fear. Most people who know Dante feel the same way. Dante Vega. Now I had a full name for the man who had threatened my best friend and upended my life in the space of an evening. It did nothing to ease the knot of dread in my stomach. How does Leo fit into all this? I asked, watching the familiar streets of my neighborhood give way to wider avenues lined with expensive boutiques. Adrian's gaze shifted to the window, watching the city pass by. Leo Romano has worked for my family for 3 years, a courier primarily, not especially bright, but reliable. Until recently. When he stole from you, when he betrayed my brother's trust, Adrian corrected, his voice hardening slightly. In our world, that distinction matters. Our world. The phrase sent a shiver down my spine. I'd heard rumors, of course, whispers about the Vega family that controlled much of the city's underground economy. But they had been abstract, distant, like ghost stories told to frighten children. Now I was sitting beside one of them, being drawn into their world whether I wanted it or not. "And what happens when you find Leo?" I asked, already knowing the answer but needing to hear it spoken. Adrian's eyes met mine, gray and fathomless. "That depends on Leo." The car turned onto a private drive bordered by wrought iron gates that swung open as we approached. Beyond them stretched manicured grounds leading to a sprawling estate that looked more like a small hotel than a private residence. Modern glass and stone nestled against old-growth trees that provided natural privacy. "Welcome to my home," Adrian said as the car stopped in a circular driveway. "For the foreseeable future, it's yours as well." The house was even more impressive up close. A staff member, security disguised as household help, opened my door and collected my pitiful duffel bag, as if it contained crown jewels instead of 3 changes of clothes and a toothbrush. Adrian led me through a soaring entryway into a house that managed to be both intimidating and strangely welcoming. Modern art adorned walls of warm wood and cool stone. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed glimpses of gardens and, in the distance, the glittering edge of what might have been the ocean. "You live here alone?" I asked, unable to hide my awe at the sheer scale of the place. "With staff," he replied simply. "Dante prefers the penthouse downtown, closer to his operations." A woman appeared, tall, elegant, with a no-nonsense air that reminded me of my high school principal. "Mr. Vega, everything is prepared as requested. Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds. This is Maya. She'll be staying with us for a while." Mrs. Reynolds nodded, her expression revealing nothing. "Your room is ready, miss. Would you like to refresh yourself before lunch?" Before I could answer, Adrian's phone chimed. He checked it, his expression darkening momentarily. "Show Maya to the East Wing," he instructed Mrs. Reynolds. "I have business to attend to. I'll join you for lunch at 1. With that, he was gone, leaving me in the care of this stranger in this strange, beautiful prison. My room, suite would be a more accurate term, overlooked a Japanese garden complete with a small stream and carefully arranged stones. The bed was larger than my entire bathroom at home, covered in linens that probably cost more than a month's salary. A closet bigger than my bedroom stood open, revealing women's clothing in various styles and sizes, the tag still attached. "Mr. Vega arranged for some options, not knowing your preferences," Mrs. Reynolds explained, noticing my confusion. "If anything fits, you're welcome to it." "This is..." I struggled to find words that wouldn't offend. "Unusual," Mrs. Reynolds supplied, a hint of dry humor in her voice. "Yes, well, the Vega brothers are unusual men." After she left, I sank onto the edge of the bed, overwhelmed. 24 hours ago, I had been serving lattes and worrying about making rent. Now I was essentially a prisoner in a mansion owned by a man who had deliberately deceived me, working for his brother who had threatened my best friend. And somewhere out there, Leo was looking for me. Leo, who had left bruises on my ribs and fear in my heart. Leo, who had apparently stolen from people even more dangerous than himself. I moved to the window, pressing my palm against the cool glass. Beyond the beauty of the gardens lay a high wall, barely visible through the trees. Not just a home, a fortress. The gold and crystal clock on the bedside table showed nearly 1 o'clock. Lunch with Adrian. The thought of food made my stomach clench, but the thought of defying my host seemed unwise. As I turned to prepare myself, something caught my eye, a small velvet box on the dresser, out of place among the modern decor. Curious, I opened it. Inside lay a delicate gold chain with a small pendant, a bird in flight, crafted in gold with a single diamond for an eye. Tucked beside it was a card in heavy cream stock. The handwriting was strong, masculine, precise. A blackbird for the girl from Blackbird. Wear it so I can find you if we're separated. I snapped the box closed, disturbed by the gesture's intimacy. A tracking device disguised as a gift? A thoughtful precaution? Or something more possessive? A knock at the door startled me. Mrs. Reynolds stood in the hallway, her expression neutral. Mr. Vega is waiting in the dining room. Shall I show you the way? As I followed her through the labyrinthine house, the pendant remained in its box on the dresser. Adrian Vega might have brought me into his world, but I would not wear his leash. Not willingly. Not yet. The dining room, like everything else in this house, managed to be both intimidating and inviting. Adrian stood at the head of a table that could have seated 20, but was set for just 2, the places adjacent to each other rather than opposite. He looked up as I entered, his expression shifting briefly. Surprise, perhaps, at my appearance in my own simple clothes, rather than the designer options he'd provided. "Maya," he said, pulling out my chair. "I trust your accommodations are satisfactory?" "They're lovely," I replied carefully, though I'm still not clear on why I'm here instead of helping your brother find Leo. Adrian's eyes met mine as he took his seat. "Make no mistake, you are helping us find Leo, just not in the way you might expect." "What exactly does that mean?" I asked, watching Adrian carefully as a server appeared with the first course. Some kind of delicate soup that smelled of herbs in the ocean. "It means," Adrian said, his tone measured, "that your presence here serves multiple purposes." He lifted his spoon, the movement precise and elegant. "Leo is looking for you. We know this. And eventually, when he fails to find you at your apartment or your former workplace, he'll become desperate. You're using me as bait," I said, the realization washing over me like cold water. Adrian's expression remained impassive. "I prefer to think of it as creating an opportunity for both Leo and ourselves." The soup before me suddenly seemed unappetizing. "And what about Ellie? Is she bait too?" "Your roommate is perfectly safe. She's being watched, of course, but no harm will come to her as long as you cooperate." He took a sip of water, studying me over the rim of his glass. "And I hope you will, Maya, for everyone's sake." The threat was soft, but unmistakable. I forced myself to eat, though each spoonful tasted like nothing. My mind raced, calculating possibilities, escape routes, leverage I might find, but the truth was painfully clear. I was outmatched in every way. "Tell me about Leo," Adrian said after a few minutes of silence. "How did you meet?" The question caught me off guard. At a bar, downtown, I was out with friends, celebrating finishing my degree. The memory felt like it belonged to someone else now. That carefree girl with dreams and ambitions, before life had hardened her edges. He bought me a drink, made me laugh, seemed normal. "And when did you realize he wasn't?" I pushed the soup away, my appetite gone completely. 3 months in. He lost his temper over something small. I burnt dinner, I think. Threw a glass against the wall. I swallowed hard. The memories rising unbidden. He apologized. Brought flowers the next day. Said it would never happen again, but it did. It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. Yes. Each time worse than the last. Each time with more elaborate apologies afterward. Adrian's expression had shifted subtly. A tightening around the eyes, a barely perceptible tension in his jaw. "And the money? When did you take it?" "The night I left." My voice had dropped to barely above a whisper. He'd been drinking. Pushed me into a wall so hard I thought my shoulder had broken. When he passed out, I looked up, meeting Adrian's gaze directly. I found his gym bag, saw the cash, took it and ran. Not knowing it belonged to my brother. Not knowing it belonged to anyone but Leo, I corrected. I thought it was his savings, money he'd been hiding while making me work double shifts to cover rent. Bitterness crept into my voice. I felt justified. And now? I laughed, a hollow sound. Now I wish I'd never met him, never taken a penny, never... I trailed off, realizing how futile regret was at this point. "The past can't be changed," Adrian said, as if reading my thoughts. "We can only move forward from where we stand." The server returned, removing our soup bowls and replacing them with the main course, perfectly seared fish on a bed of vibrant vegetables. Under different circumstances, I might have been impressed by the elegance of the meal. Now it just seemed like another reminder of how far I'd fallen into a world I didn't understand. "So, what happens now?" I asked, pushing food around my plate. "I just stay here, locked in your beautiful cage, waiting for Leo to make a move. For the moment, yes." Adrian cut into his fish with surgical precision. "Though there are worse cages. Wouldn't you agree?" I thought of the apartment I'd shared with Leo, how it had transformed from a home to a battlefield, each room holding memories of arguments, of tears, of bruises hidden under long sleeves. "Yes," I admitted quietly. "There are worse cages." Something flickered in Adrian's eyes. Approval, perhaps, or understanding. "You're not a prisoner here, Maya. Think of yourself as a protected witness." "Protected by the very people I should be afraid of," I pointed out. "The world isn't as black and white as you might believe." He took a sip of wine, watching me over the rim of his glass. "My family's business may operate outside conventional laws, but we have our own code, our own justice. And what justice awaits Leo when you find him?" Adrian set down his glass carefully. "That depends entirely on him. On whether he returns what was taken, on whether he shows proper remorse." I didn't need him to elaborate. The unspoken threat hung in the air between us. Yet strangely, I felt no sympathy for Leo. Whatever fate awaited him at the hands of the Vegas, he had earned it, not just through his theft, but through the fear and pain he had inflicted on me and likely others before me. "And what about me?" I asked, the question that had been burning in my mind since last night. "What happens to me when this is over?" For the first time, Adrian's composure faltered slightly. A shadow passed over his features. "There and gone so quickly I might have imagined it. That also remains to be seen," he said finally. "Much depends on how events unfold." Not the reassurance I had hoped for. I pushed my plate away, appetite gone completely. "May I be excused? I'm not feeling well." Adrian studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. "Mrs. Reynolds will show you around the grounds this afternoon, if you feel up to it. The fresh air might help." I rose, grateful for the dismissal, but his voice stopped me at the threshold. "Maya, the pendant in your room." His eyes met mine, unreadable as ever. "It's not what you think." I froze. "What is it then?" "Insurance. Protection." A pause. "Should you need to contact me directly, the stone contains a panic button. One press, and I'll know you need me." "And the tracking capabilities I assume it has?" The ghost of a smile touched his lips. "A necessary precaution, for your safety more than my convenience." I left without responding, finding my way back to my room through the maze-like corridors. The velvet box still sat where I'd left it, innocuous and threatening all at once. I opened it again, studying the delicate workmanship of the golden bird, beautiful and dangerous, like everything else in Adrian Vega's world. After a restless hour alone with my thoughts, I accepted Mrs. Reynolds' offer of a tour. The grounds were even more impressive by daylight. Acres of manicured gardens giving way to wild woodlands, all encircled by that high wall I'd glimpsed from my window. Security cameras were discreetly positioned throughout, their presence a reminder that beauty and surveillance went hand in hand here. "How long have you worked for Mr. Vega?" I asked as we paused by a reflecting pool where koi fish swam lazily beneath lily pads. "Nearly 15 years, Mrs. Reynolds replied, her tone neutral, yet somehow warm. "Since he purchased this property." "And his business? You know what he does?" She gave me a measured look. "I know enough to understand my place in this household. The rest isn't my concern. Doesn't it bother you, working for someone who—" I stopped, unsure how to finish the sentence without potentially endangering myself. "Mr. Adrian is a fair employer," she said carefully. "Generous, respectful, the rest—" She shrugged one elegant shoulder. "The world is complicated, Miss Maya. Black and white thinking is a luxury for those who've never had to survive in the gray areas." I considered her words as we continued our walk. How many compromises had I made in my own life? Taking Leo's money, Dante's money, had seemed justified at the time. An eye for an eye. But where did the cycle of justifications end? As evening approached, Mrs. Reynolds escorted me back to my room, informing me that dinner would be served at 8. I showered in the marble bathroom larger than my entire kitchen at home, letting the hot water sluice away some of the tension that had knotted my muscles since last night. Wrapped in a plush robe, I surveyed the closet of new clothing. Pride urged me to continue wearing my own clothes, shabby as they might appear in these surroundings. But practicality won out. I selected a simple black dress that fit surprisingly well, paired with flat shoes I could run in if necessary. Always plan for escape, a lesson Leo had taught me unintentionally. As I fastened the dress, my gaze fell once more on the velvet box. Insurance. Protection. Adrian's words echoed in my mind. After a moment's hesitation, I opened it and lifted the necklace, weighing the pendant in my palm. A cage could provide protection as well as confinement, I reasoned. And in this moment, protection seemed the wiser choice. I fastened the chain around my neck, the bird resting just below my collarbone. Its tiny diamond eye caught the light, winking like a secret kept between us. At exactly 8 o'clock, a soft knock at my door announced dinner. I expected Mrs. Reynolds, but found Adrian himself waiting in the hallway, his expression unreadable as always except for a brief flicker of something, approval, satisfaction, when he noticed the pendant at my throat. "You look lovely," he said simply, offering his arm. "Shall we?" As we walked through the quiet house, I was acutely aware of his proximity, the warmth radiating from him, the subtle scent of his cologne, the controlled power in his movements. Dangerous, I reminded myself. This man is dangerous, yet something about him called to me on a level I didn't want to examine too closely. "My brother will be joining us," Adrian said as we approached the dining room. "He has news." I faltered mid-step. "Dante? Here?" Adrian's hand came to rest lightly at the small of my back, steadying me. The touch was brief, but electric. "Remember, you're under my protection in this house. Nothing will happen to you." Empty reassurance, I thought, but nodded anyway. We entered the dining room to find Dante Vega already seated at the head of the table, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. He rose as we entered, his smile as practiced and insincere as I remembered. "Maya," he greeted me, as if we were old friends meeting for a casual dinner. "How lovely to see you again. I trust my brother has been a gracious host?" The pendant felt suddenly heavy against my skin, a tangible reminder of whose world I had entered, whose game I was playing, whose rules would determine my fate. "Your brother has been—" I searched for the right word, aware of the delicate balance I needed to maintain. "Accommodating." Dante's smile widened, not reaching his eyes. "Excellent. Please, sit." He gestured to the chair beside him, opposite where Adrian had seated himself. The table, set for 3 tonight, gleamed with crystal and silver under the warm light of a modern chandelier. A server appeared silently, pouring wine, deep red for the brothers, white for me without asking my preference. "A toast," Dante said, raising his glass, "to new alliances." I lifted my glass reluctantly, the word alliance sticking in my throat. This wasn't an alliance. It was coercion, plain and simple. "You mentioned news," Adrian said after we'd all taken a perfunctory sip. Dante set down his glass, his expression shifting to something more businesslike. "Indeed. It seems our friend Leo has been quite busy." His gaze slid to me, calculating. "He visited your workplace again today, Maya. Became rather insistent when told you no longer worked there." My stomach tightened. "Did he hurt anyone?" "Nothing serious. A few threats to your former manager." Dante waved a hand dismissively. "My men intervened before things escalated." "Your men were watching the coffee shop?" I asked, confused. "We've been watching all the places Leo might look for you," Adrian explained, his voice calm and matter-of-fact. "The coffee shop, your apartment building, your roommate's workplace." The realization that I had been under surveillance even before our encounter sent a chill through me. How long had they been watching? What else did they know about my life? "The important thing," Dante continued, "is that Leo is growing desperate, making mistakes. It's only a matter of time now." "Time until what?" I asked. though I feared I already knew the answer. Dante smiled thinly, until he makes his final mistake. The first course arrived. Some kind of delicate seafood arrangement that I barely tasted. My mind was racing, calculating angles, searching for leverage in a game where I held no cards. "Your roommate is well, by the way," Dante said casually, as if reading my thoughts. "My men report she went to work as usual, stopped for groceries on the way home, spoke on the phone with her mother for 27 minutes. The detailed surveillance report made my skin crawl. Is that supposed to reassure me? It should." Adrian interjected, his tone softer than his brother's. "It means she's safe, protected." "Watched," I corrected, "like an animal in a zoo." "Perspective," Dante replied, unruffled. "From where I sit, she's being guarded from a violent man who might use her to get to you." He took another sip of wine. "You should be thanking me." The audacity stole my breath momentarily. "Thank you for threatening my friend. For forcing me into this situation, for protecting you both from Leo Romano," Dante interrupted smoothly. "A man who, by your own admission, has a history of violence. A man who is currently searching the city for you with what I can only assume are less than honorable intentions." I fell silent, hating that he had a point. Leo was dangerous, and if he found me, or worse, found Ellie, the consequences could be severe. The Vegas protection, coerced as it was, offered a shield I couldn't provide alone. "What exactly do you expect from me?" I asked finally, looking between the brothers. "You know I haven't seen Leo in months. I don't know where he would hide. But you know him," Adrian said quietly. "His patterns, his weaknesses, the places he felt safe. And most importantly," Dante added, "he's looking for you, which means when the time is right, you'll be our perfect lure." The main course arrived. Perfectly cooked steak for the brothers, some kind of fish for me. I stared at my plate, appetite non-existent. "And if I refuse to be your bait?" I asked, knowing the answer, but needing to hear it spoken. "That would be unfortunate," Dante replied, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. "For your roommate, for you, for everyone involved, really." Adrian's eyes met mine across the table. Something passed between us, not quite sympathy, but understanding perhaps, an acknowledgement of the trap I found myself in. "I need some air," I said abruptly, pushing back from the table. Dante raised an eyebrow, but nodded. "Of course. Adrian, perhaps you'd accompany our guest to the terrace." It wasn't really a suggestion. Adrian rose, coming to my side and guiding me through glass doors onto a sprawling terrace overlooking illuminated gardens. The night air was cool against my flushed skin, carrying the scent of jasmine and distant sea salt. We stood in silence for several minutes, the space between us charged with unspoken tensions. Finally, Adrian spoke. "I know this isn't what you wanted," he said quietly. "None of this is." A bitter laugh escaped me. "That's quite an understatement." "My brother," Adrian began, then paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Dante sees the world in terms of assets and liabilities, useful tools and disposable obstacles." "And which am I?" I asked, turning to face him. The moonlight carved shadows across his face, emphasizing the strong lines of his jaw, the intensity of his eyes. "That depends on you. On whether I help you find Leo," I surmised. "On whether you understand the position you're in," he corrected. "The opportunities as well as the dangers." I shook my head in disbelief. "Opportunities? I'm essentially a prisoner being used as bait for my violent ex-boyfriend by a family of criminals. Please, enlighten me about these wonderful opportunities." Adrian moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the moonlight. "Protection, security, a life free from looking over your shoulder, wondering when Leo might appear." His voice dropped lower. "My brother may have initiated the situation, Maya, but I can ensure your safety long after Leo is dealt with." The pendant at my throat seemed suddenly heavy. "At what price?" His eyes held mine, unfathomable in the darkness. "Your loyalty, your discretion. Nothing more. Nothing more." The words hung between us, laden with unspoken possibilities. I was acutely aware of his proximity, of the subtle heat radiating from his body, of the way his gaze dropped briefly to my lips, before returning to my eyes. "And if I refuse?" I whispered. "You won't," he said simply. Not a threat, but a certainty that sent a confusing shiver down my spine. The glass door slid open behind us, breaking the moment. Dante stood silhouetted against the dining room light. "If you're finished with your private conversation," he said, an edge to his voice I hadn't heard before, "we have business to conclude." We returned to the dining room, the air thick with tension. Dessert had been served, some elaborate confection I couldn't bring myself to touch. "Tomorrow," Dante said without preamble, "you'll make a phone call to your roommate. Tell her you're safe but staying with a friend for a few days. Tell her to inform anyone who asks, especially Leo, that you've gone to visit family in..." He paused, consulting his phone. "Michigan. Your mother still lives there, correct?" The casual mention of my mother sent a jolt of fear through me. How much did they know about my family? "Yes," I admitted quietly. "Good. This information will filter back to Leo eventually. When it does, he'll have two choices: believe it and expand his search, or disbelieve it and increase pressure on those closest to you. Either way, his movements will become more predictable. And then?" I asked. Dante smiled thinly. "And then we spring our trap." The rest of the dinner passed in a blur of tension and forced pleasantries. Dante departed shortly after, leaving me alone with Adrian once more. The relief I felt at his brother's absence disturbed me, as if Adrian's brand of danger was somehow preferable to Dante's. "You should rest," Adrian said, as we walked back toward my room. "Tomorrow will be challenging." We stopped at my door, the moment suddenly awkward, poised between captor and captive, protector and protected. Something else simmered beneath the surface, an attraction I didn't want to acknowledge but couldn't fully deny. "Why did you let me believe you were a police officer?" I asked abruptly. "That first night, when you picked me up." A shadow of something, regret, perhaps, crossed his features. "Would you have gotten into my car if you'd known the truth?" "No." "Then you have your answer." He reached out, his fingers lightly brushing the golden bird at my throat. The contact sent electricity racing across my skin. "I did what was necessary to keep you safe." "Safe for your brother's purposes," I corrected bitterly. Adrian's expression hardened slightly. "For now, yes. But remember what I told you on the terrace, Maya. This situation is temporary. Leo will be found. Debts will be settled." His voice dropped, becoming intense. "What comes after? That path is still being written." Before I could respond, he stepped back, the professional mask slipping back into place. "Sleep well," he said formally. "I'll see you in the morning." As I closed the door behind me, I leaned against it, my heart racing with confusion and fear. And something else I didn't dare name. The pendant felt warm against my skin, a tether binding me to Adrian Vega and his dangerous world. Tomorrow I would make a phone call that would set a trap for Leo. I would become complicit in whatever fate awaited him. And somewhere in that process, I would have to decide who I feared more: the devil I knew, or the devil whose house I now called home. Morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through gauzy curtains. I'd slept fitfully, dreams filled with shadowy figures and golden cages. The pendant remained at my throat. I hadn't taken it off before falling into bed, too exhausted by fear and uncertainty to bother. A soft knock at the door announced Mrs. Reynolds, bearing a tray of coffee and pastries. "Mr. Vega requests your presence in his study at 10, she informed me, setting the tray on a small table by the window. "The call to your roommate will be arranged then." I nodded, grateful for the coffee if nothing else. "Mrs. Reynolds," I said as she turned to leave, "if you were in my position, what would you do?" She paused, considering me with those shrewd eyes that seemed to see more than they revealed. "I would remember that in this world, survival often depends on choosing the right allies." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "And I would observe that Mr. Adrian rarely takes personal interest in business matters." With that cryptic response, she left me to my coffee and my thoughts. At precisely 10 o'clock, I made my way to Adrian's study, having dressed in simple jeans and a sweater from the provided wardrobe. The house was quiet, staff moving like shadows through sunlit corridors. The study, like everything in this house, balanced intimidation and comfort. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined one wall, filled with leather-bound volumes that appeared well-read rather than decorative. A massive desk of dark wood dominated the space, behind which Adrian sat reviewing documents. He looked up as I entered, his expression warming slightly. "Maya, thank you for being prompt. Please, sit." I took the chair across from him, noting the phone positioned between us. "Is your brother joining us?" I asked, unable to keep the tension from my voice. "Dante has other matters to attend to today," Adrian replied, and I tried not to show my relief. "I'll be overseeing this conversation." He pushed a notepad toward me, covered in his precise handwriting. "These are the key points to cover with your roommate. Keep the call brief. Natural. Remember that Leo may already be monitoring her phone." The thought sent a chill through me. Poor Ellie. Caught in this dangerous game because of my choices. And if she tells me something's wrong? If Leo has already found her? Then we adjust our strategy. Adrian's tone was calm, but I noticed his hand tense slightly on the desk. "But my men report all was quiet at your apartment this morning." Ellie left for work as usual. I picked up the phone, dialing with trembling fingers. 3 rings, then Ellie's voice, breathless and wary. "Hello?" "Elle, it's me," I said, striving for normalcy despite Adrian's watchful gaze. "Maya! Oh my God, are you okay? Where are you?" Relief and panic mingled in her voice. "I'm fine, I promise. I'm staying with a friend for a few days." I glanced at Adrian's notes, following the script. I just needed some time to sort things out after everything. "Is this about those men? The ones who came to our apartment?" Ellie's voice dropped to a whisper. "Maya, they were scary. The older one. He made threats." Adrian's eyebrows rose slightly at this, but his expression remained neutral. "I know, Elle, and I'm so sorry you got caught up in this. But I'm handling it. I promise." I swallowed hard. "Listen, if anyone asks, especially Leo, tell them I went to visit my mom in Michigan, okay? I just need some space from everything." A pause. "Leo came by yesterday. He was not good, Maya. He tore through our place looking for something. Said you'd taken what belonged to him." Adrian leaned forward at this, clearly interested. "What did you tell him?" I asked, my heart racing. "That I hadn't seen you in days, that I didn't know where you were." Ellie's voice cracked. I don't think he believed me. Adrian scribbled something on a notepad, then turned it toward me. "Ask what he was looking for specifically." "Did he say what I supposedly took? What he was looking for?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "He kept talking about a flash drive. Said it was worth more than money." Ellie's voice dropped even lower. "Maya, who are you really with? Are you safe? Blink twice if you're being held against your will." Despite everything, a small laugh escaped me. "This isn't a video call, Elle, and yes, I'm safe." I met Adrian's eyes as I said it, surprised to realize I meant it, at least partially. Whatever the vaguest intentions, they had protected me from Leo so far. "I'll call again soon," I promised. "Just be careful, okay? Lock the doors. Don't talk to strangers." "That's rich coming from you," Ellie retorted, a hint of her usual spark returning. "You're the one who disappeared with mysterious men in suits." "Love you too, Elle," I said softly. "Talk soon." I hung up, the silence in the study suddenly oppressive. "A flash drive," I said, before Adrian could speak. "Not money. Leo was looking for a flash drive." Adrian's expression had turned thoughtful. "Did Leo have access to a computer at your shared apartment?" I thought back. "Yes, a laptop. He was weirdly protective of it. Kept it password locked, never let me use it." "And when you left, did you take anything besides the money? Anything from his personal belongings?" I started to shake my head, then froze as a memory surfaced. His keychain. I took his car keys so he couldn't follow me that night. My hands tightened into fists. There was a thumb drive on the ring. I thought it was just... I didn't even think about it. Adrian was suddenly intensely focused. "And where is this keychain now?" "In my bag. The one I brought here." I hadn't given it a second thought. Just another piece of the life I'd fled. Within minutes, we were in my room. I dug through my duffel bag, extracting a battered leather keychain with a set of car keys, and sure enough, a small black thumb drive. Adrian took it carefully, examining it as if it might explode. "This could change everything," he said, more to himself than to me. "If this contains what I think it does." "Which is what, exactly?" I demanded. What was Leo involved in besides drug distribution? Adrian's eyes met mine, calculating. I could almost see him weighing how much to reveal. "My brother's business interests are diverse," he said finally. "One aspect involves financial services for certain clients who prefer discretion over traditional banking." "Money laundering," I translated flatly. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Among other things, Leo had recently been entrusted with sensitive client information. Information that would be extremely valuable to competitors or law enforcement. The implications hit me. So, when Leo stole the money, we assumed it was simple greed, a courier skimming from deliveries. Adrian's expression hardened, but if he also took client data with the intention of selling it or leveraging it, that's why your brother was so intent on finding him, I finished. Not just for the money. The money is nothing compared to the damage this information could cause in the wrong hands. Adrian pocketed the drive. "I need to secure this immediately. My brother will want to know." Fear crawled up my spine. What happens now? To Leo? To me? Adrian's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. "That depends on what's on this drive. If it contains what we suspect, finding Leo becomes even more urgent." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "As for you, Maya, you've just become considerably more valuable to my family. As a pawn in your game," I said bitterly. "As someone who unknowingly held the key we've been searching for." His hand came up, fingers lightly touching the pendant at my throat. "Someone worth protecting." The door opened without warning. Dante Vega stood in the threshold, his eyes taking in the scene before him. Adrian standing close to me, his hand at my neck, the keychain dangling from my fingers. "Interrupting something?" Dante asked, his voice deceptively light. Adrian stepped back, his professional mask sliding into place. "Maya has recovered something of interest." He held up the flash drive. Leo's missing data. Dante's expression transformed instantly from suspicion to intense focus. "You're certain?" "It was on his keychain," I explained. "I took it the night I left him without realizing what it was." A slow smile spread across Dante's face, the first genuine one I'd seen from him. "Well, Maya, it seems you're full of surprises." He held out his hand to his brother. "I'll take that." Something flickered across Adrian's face. Reluctance? Concern? Before he handed over the drive. "We should verify its contents before proceeding." "Of course," Dante agreed smoothly, pocketing the drive. "In my office. Immediately." His gaze shifted to me, calculating. "It seems your usefulness has evolved, Maya. I'll need to reconsider our arrangement." A chill ran through me. "Our arrangement? Don't worry," Dante said with a dismissive wave. "This development works in your favor. Assuming the data is intact, of course." He turned to leave, then paused. "Adrian, join me in 5 minutes." After he left, silence filled the room. Adrian's expression had turned unreadable again, but tension radiated from him in almost palpable waves. What did he mean? "Reconsider our arrangement," I asked, trying to keep the fear from my voice. Adrian's eyes met mine. "It means that if that drive contains what we need, you're no longer merely bait for Leo. You're now directly involved in recovering stolen property." "I didn't know what it was," I protested. "Intention doesn't always matter in our world," Adrian replied. "Results do." He moved toward the door, then stopped. "Lock your door. Don't leave this room until I return." "Adrian," I called after him, surprising myself by using his first name. "Am I in danger from your brother?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "Not while I'm here." With that cryptic reassurance, he left. I sat on the edge of the bed, fingers absently tracing the golden bird at my throat. In the space of minutes, I'd gone from reluctant bait to unwitting accomplice. The flash drive I'd carried for months without a second thought might now determine whether I walked away from this nightmare or became permanently entangled in the Vegas world. Hours passed. Night fell. I remained in my room as instructed, alternating between pacing and staring out at the darkened gardens. No one came. not Adrian, not Dante, not even Mrs. Reynolds with dinner. Just as I was considering venturing out despite Adrian's warning, a soft knock sounded at my door. I opened it cautiously to find Adrian, his expression grim, a small bag in his hand. "Pack whatever you need," he said without preamble. "We're leaving. Now."